Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. This episode is all about how to study the CPT manual. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys, so we're back with our CPT book yet again. So how do we study the CPT manual? Aside from working with workbooks, aside from going through a program, if we're independently studying, how do we do this? How do we start with this CPT manual? Well, the first things first, there are 18 color changes in this book, 18. And there are some sections that are, of course, a lot bigger than others. There's some chapters that's going to be a little bit more in-depth. The medicine chapter is quite big. The musculoskeletal is also pretty big. Cardiovascular is a very big comprehensive section. Okay, so it's going to take you time, but if you break it down and you think about it, 18 of these chapters that you got to go through, you can break that up and you can do a chapter a week. Now, if it takes you a little bit longer to review a chapter, and by that I mean, when I say to review a chapter a week, this means that you're looking at the book. You're looking at the book, you're looking at all of the guidance in between, you're reading all of this guidance in between. So essentially, yes, you're going to go through the whole book. But this is going to put you at the head of the pack when it comes to people who know about the book, because then you can literally say, I have been through that entire book because you took the time to review each and every single chapter, right? So it's not so intimidating. And even just the fact of flipping and looking at each and every single page and reviewing all the things that are available for that chapter, all of the guidance, all of the notes that they have in the CPT manual is going to make you a lot sharper when it comes to how to find the codes and what to look up, when you're looking through the book, right? So if you take 18 weeks to review, and in the meantime, you're also, working through a workbook, you're working through your program, that's going to be great. That's going to set you up for success, because that action of just doing that simple thing of taking a week to go over a particular section, and you don't have to, read it every single day. You just have to go through the chapter. And even if it is, again, just looking at the words, looking at the sections, knowing what's available, again, it's going to make you so much more knowledgeable. And it's just a simple action. It is a simple action of looking at the book and not just studying the book and looking at, this and that. It's knowing what the symbols are. It's knowing and recognizing those symbols when they're in the book, right? When they're in there and you're looking at all of the charts and all of the codes and everything else. Look, you've already reviewed one whole chapter. Again, take the time to look at each and every single one. And you see, anesthesia, and I get emails from folks that say that people struggle the most with anesthesia. It is one of the smallest sections of this book. Literally, it's one of the smallest sections. And the fact that people struggle with it, I don't really understand, right? Because when you look at what it says, when they talk about like the physical status modifiers and things like qualifying circumstances, it's explaining things to you in here. The book explains things to you. And guess what, guys? These are open book tests. These are open book tests that we are allowed to have this information with us when we go in there. So if you are studying on your own, start off with opening your CPT manual and flipping through the first chapter and start going from there. And you do this the entire way so that you can look and you can become familiar with the book. And once you've got done with one section, right? This anesthesia section, that's it, right? Now, it's of course, E&M is more complex, and E&M was pretty small as well. But that's it, you're done with that section. but you're going to come back to it later on. Okay. This is not a one-time deal. Okay. This is a committed thing that you have to do little at a time, but it's taking the effort and taking those steps to condition yourself to say, okay, I'm going to review this chapter. And this is what I mean when I say I'm going to review it. I'm going to look at all the pages. I'm going to take a look at all the coding tips and all the notes and everything else. I'm going to understand what these words mean. Incisional biopsy, punch biopsy. Why are these words important? It's important to understand what the medical terminology is, because that's another area that medical coders struggle in. There's a lot of brand new medical coders that will say, Bleu, why is it important for me to know medical terminology? I just want to look up codes. It's not about just looking up codes, my dear. It's not about that at all. It's about understanding what these words mean. And it's literally defining everything in the book. So when you take the time to review these chapters and you do one chapter a week, right? There's 18 of these, right? So that's 4 months and 2 weeks that it'll take you to review the entire thing. And you're going through it at a pace that's not going to wear you out. You're going through it at a pace where you're going to be building your knowledge. Okay, because every single one of these chapters is going to build on itself. It's going to build on more knowledge that you have. Okay, and you're going to see where everything is at. And there's nothing more powerful than that. There's nothing more powerful than somebody who's been through the whole book. I can't tell you how many times I've been through this book, guys. But again, I love what I do. I love what I do, and I can work anywhere. And that's the thing that you guys, there's a benefit to this, guys. The more that you study these books and the more that you get like these study tips, you know, as far as like, okay, reviewing a chapter a week. Okay, that sounds manageable. It is manageable. And it's going to make you more comfortable with the book. And guess what? You're going to get faster with the book because again, it's familiar. Look, it's just a simple act of just turning the page, looking at all the pages, looking at the illustrations, because your brain is recording everything that you're thinking. Everything, not everything that you're thinking, everything that you see, your brain is thinking and remembering it. You ever have that moment where you have deja vu? Where you think to yourself, no, I know I saw that somewhere. Or I know I remember seeing that somewhere. That's exactly what's going to happen to you when you start doing this. When you start taking the time to be reviewing all of these pages and to be going through all of these sections, just like this. And that way it becomes familiar. And it's going to be, you're going to build muscle memory. You're definitely going to be building muscle memory doing this. And again, guys, it doesn't take circles. It doesn't take tabs. It doesn't take highlights. It doesn't take notes and writing and things like that. It doesn't. And some people are going to disagree, and that's okay. We are okay to disagree, folks. We are okay to disagree. It doesn't make us enemies. It doesn't. It just shows there's a difference in experience. Somebody who is brand new and who's never done this, and then has somebody who has maybe had years of experience, but maybe those were years ago, right? And they haven't been coding in the real world for a long time. And they say, oh yeah, well, if you do this, when I learned medical coding, I did this. I circled and I did all of this. And they pass that knowledge on to somebody else who's brand new. Well, of course, that brand new person's going to say, okay, well, that's the way that it should be done. Oh, okay, well, maybe I'll do it that way. Again, when was the last time that person was out in the real world coding? Because if you look at a book when you're coding and you see all this writing all over it, highlighting and circles and scribbles and all that other stuff, and you see that, you're going to get confused, right? Because right now you're just looking for the codes, but then there's all these other notes that you see that you wrote from a time that you don't even remember what that note was pertaining to. That's why I say, guys, keep a notebook handy when you're working with this book. Keep a notebook handy so that way you can write in that notebook all your notes, any questions that you have, And that's another thing too, as you're looking through this book, right? If you see something in here that's confusing to you, that is not as familiar because of maybe the terminology that they're using or whatever the case may be, and you say, I want to spend a little bit more time learning this part. Well, now you have this list of things that you have to ask questions about. And you know what? You have that list and it's not on your mind. A lot of students will get bogged down with having so much on their mind. And they say, Bleu, I am so overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because you're thinking about it. Instead of writing it down, making a list. This is what I have to learn because this is what I didn't understand. It's now not on my brain anymore. It's on this list. And when you get that question answered, when you Google for more information about it, and it's there and you can retain it more, guess what happens? You can check that that little entry off that I don't know list. And now the list of things that you know is going to grow. It's going to grow and you're going to be able to better understand. And you won't have that feeling of, I don't get this, because it's going to start making sense. You're going to be more organized by putting it on this list, by writing it down and saying, okay, I've mastered that. You know, this cardiovascular section is no joke. You see how thick this section is? This section is very thick, very thick. But it's not impossible. If you have to take 2 weeks to go over it and stretch it out, it's okay, guys. It's not a race. It's not a race. If you're diligent on it, it's a good thing, right? If you want to double up on a chapter, maybe in a week, like say for instance, you are reviewing the anesthesia section, and you say, oh, I think I pretty much got that. And you're working through your workbook and you see that you have it, right? You see that you're doing really well in that section. You're able to find the codes. You're able to understand when and where to apply them and things like that. And you say, okay, well, I got through that pretty quick. Let me go through half of the cardiovascular section, you know? And so that way I can get part of it done. And then I have the anesthesia done. So now I can check off anesthesia. I can put a partial check on the cardiovascular section because you separated it into 2 sections, but you tacked it on to the sections where you got through them a little bit quicker, right? It makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense, I think, you know, but again, it's about, you know, coupling up things as you can, and knowing that you're not alone when it comes to feeling like this. But at least you have some kind of direction now. You have some kind of structure. You have some kind of path that you can follow from a veteran who really loves what she does. I really love coding. I do. And again, I don't know what other career I would have been in, you know. That being said, though, look at that. And it's just a simple thing of just opening the book. And a lot of people miss that. A lot of people miss the simple details of just doing the simple things. Reading the book. Opening it up. Touching it. Looking at it. Making sure that you understand. And 18 weeks of structure. This week I'm doing this chapter. This week I'm doing this chapter. This week I'm doing this chapter. Okay, now you have a roadmap, guys. You can make a whole list and you can check mark it every single time. And the more check marks you see, the better and more confident that you'll feel, right? And let one of those weeks that, and you, again, you're not just limited just to 18 weeks. You can do more, right? But because I always say the best amount of time to learn medical coding is 9 months, 12 months, or 18 months. That's going to give you like a sufficient amount of time. It's when you try to go less time than that it really is going to hurt you in the long run because you're rushing. You're rushing to try to get through, but you're not going to understand when you get out in the real world. At least be prepared, guys. This is going to get you prepared. Doing this kind of things gets you prepared. Okay, so do the 18 chapters like that. Again, Path and Lab is pretty big too. And so is, what is this? The medicine section. Medicine section, you may have to split that one too and, tack it onto a shorter section, But one of the times that you're maybe having a Saturday or, you want to continue to study, maybe you got a little second wind or something. Another thing that you can do is literally look through the index. Look through the index because, like I said, your brain is going to say, okay, I've seen that. I've seen that entry before. And you're going to know all of the possible options that you have. You don't have to memorize it, guys. Don't memorize. Don't even try. But at least you'll see it. There's words in here that I've never seen before. When I was studying in medical coding, I was like, what kind of procedure is that? What does that mean? And then if you get like that curiosity, then you look it up. You use Google. Google is your friend. Google is free and available to everybody. But think about that, guys. Think about it. Wouldn't you rather do that? Give yourself the opportunity to even just look at all the entries they have. And think about all of the different possible procedures they have. All the things the entries that they have here. Everything. And you think, wow, there's all these different things. And you never really think about this stuff until you're in the thick of it, right? And when you get in the thick of it, then you're just like, that's pretty awesome. But I guarantee you, if you do this, there's going to be that moment where you're going to say to yourself, I know I saw that. I saw that somewhere. Let me look at my book. And then when you do, and you're like, oh, there, I found it. I know where it is. The ones who do the heavy lifting, guys, are the ones who get ahead. That was how I learned evaluation and management. That was how I learned a lot of things. Because I read the whole book that they gave us for evaluation and management when I went to school. That book is outdated. Don't ask me what the book is because it's long gone, outdated. But I read that book cover to cover. And because they told me that a lot of people were failing evaluation and management because they didn't understand it. So I said, well, mess on that. I'm going to make sure that I understand. So I read that book cover to cover. I said, there's no way I can't not understand this if I read the book cover to cover. And I did. And sure enough, I got through on the first hit. And they were like, wow, they were really amazed. They were like, well, you don't have to do that, Bleu. You don't have to read the whole book cover to cover. And I said, well, I want to get through this course. And I want to get through it. So, and I did. I got through it. But again, it's the heavy lifting. And don't be afraid of the heavy lifting, guys. Because the ones who put in that time, again, I can't say it enough. Those are the ones that are going to get ahead. Those are the ones that are going to have that competitive edge. That yes, medical coders are competitive. But you're going to have that competitive edge because you know that's what you got to do. Because there's a lot of students who don't know that. There's a lot of students that come into this field later in life, and they've had other careers in other fields, never in this. And sometimes they don't think about the enormity. People don't think about the enormity of the things that we have to know. And I've had people who write me and say, well, Bleu, you scared me when you told me we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. Well, I don't do it to scare folks. I do it to prepare you. I would rather you be prepared than not be prepared, right? So, take a Saturday, guys. Look at all these procedures, these crazy things that they come out with in here. Look at all that stuff. And then know and be happy with yourself that you have looked at it all. Everything is known to you because you've looked through it all. I'm just saying. So with that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this week of how to study, my study tips. It's more encouragement, I think, though. But, hopefully you got some little nuggets out of this, whether it is to break it down by week, break it down to the smallest element. which is break it down by subject, by week. Write things down, get yourself organized, get yourself on a schedule, get yourself a notebook where you can write down what you know, what you don't know, your questions, and get them answered. So that way you can get it off your mind so it's not so all overwhelming. Okay, the more you can get it out, better. All right, so at least that's just my advice anyway. But if you're out there studying, I wish you luck. Make sure you take your breaks, take care of yourself, give yourself good nutrition, make sure you stay hydrated. And I will see y'all next time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.